Here on C7 Sport. Great to have your company for our exclusive coverage in the final round of the 10-round Autopro Super Sprint Series. It's been a runaway success throughout the summer of 2000-2001, and today's 10th and final round comes your way from the Wagga International Raceway. No doubt about it, it's the biggest track on the calendar for this season's Autopro tournament. It'll carry very high speeds, and we look forward to you watching over the next 60 minutes. Let's have a look at the point score at the completion of 9 rounds before we hear from some of the stars contesting tonight's grand finale. This is the top 6 for you at the completion of the penultimate round. Mike van Bremen leads the way, 2,693 points. Then Jeff Judd, David Swayn, Rod Matthews, and it's going to go right down to the wire tonight. The cars currently on the racetrack at the Wagga International Raceway. They are hot lapping. I'm joined in commentary by the editor of Speedway Racing News magazine, Dennis Newland.
Well, thank you, David. Yes, Mike van Bremen is the man in the box seat tonight to go on and take out this Autopro Super Sprint Series. We should see some great action at the wide open spaces of the Wagga International Raceway tonight.
All right, Jeff Judd comes into this meeting second in the point score. He's with Stuart McCarthy.
The man currently sitting second in the point standings for the final round, Jeffrey Judd out of Camperdown. Jeffrey, how are you feeling coming into the final round?
Oh, not really any pressure much, really. If we have a reasonable night, we'll keep second. Bit far to catch up to Mick for first, but you never know what can happen. But no, not really much pressure, I wouldn't think. But to make the A-main will be good tonight.
The amount of cars that are here, 35 odd cars, fantastic to see everybody's travelled up here to Wagga.
Yeah, it's really great. There's a lot of Victorians and a few New South Wales fellas, and it's really good that they made the trip down, and there's some top quality New South Wales cars too, which just shows that everybody wants to do well in the Autopro Super Sprint Series.
We wish you all the best for tonight.
Thanks, that's you.
Yes, and Jeffrey Judd has been doing exceptionally well in this series since it started in November of last year. It's the opening qualifying heat now for Parker Motion and Control. 10-lap journey. Brent, Hough, Charles Hunter, John Vogels, David Murcott, Mark Smith, Ian Lewis, Graeme Pitcher, Matthew Reid, Darren Saillard out of the Australian Capital Territory, and Jeff Judd, the Victorian, whom we just heard from with Stuart McCarthy. Good-looking field here. The biggest racetrack on the calendar for the Autopro Series, well over 600 metres in circumference, and they'll reach top speeds of about 160 kilometres an hour on the stretches here at the Wagga International Raceway. I'm a little confused. I can see orange lights on the racetrack, but that appears to be a malfunction because the racing continues, Dennis.
Yeah, it does, David. This is a big horsepower track. We'll see some great sprint car action here at the Wagga International Raceway. And as they come down the main straightaway, Ian Lewis already looking good in second spot, but the man out front is David Murcott in the number 71 car.
He started from the outside of the second row. He's really been coming on strong in the latter stages of this series, Murcott. That's him now starting his commencement of another lap over the start-finish line. Lewis runs second. Here's our third-place driver, John Vogels. I reckon first to third are separated by something like 100 metres at the moment. He's feeding him, gapping them, and we saw Matthew Reid, the other Victorian driver, back in fourth place. That's first on the left-hand side of your screen. I reckon he's stretched the lead now to 100 metres between he and his nearest rival, Ian Lewis.
Yeah, that's right, David. Well clear at this stage, David Murcott. Of course, further back in the field is Jeff Judd as we watch Murcott going through turn number 2, heading now down the back straightaway, the wide open spaces of the Wagga International Raceway, and David Murcott absolutely has this race shot to pieces.
This is more like an American racetrack, and I guess in keeping with that philosophy, it's fairly slick early in the night, but a very good cushion developing up high on the track. And not a bad crowd in tonight as well to see the grand finale of the Autopro Super Sprint Series. It looks like it's a fairly sparsely strung out crowd, as that shot shows, but this is such a big venue. You need a lot of people to make it look full.
Oh, you do, David. Down in the turn 4 area, there are certainly plenty of race fans down the bottom part of the race track as we watch the field coming through down into turn number 1 once again. The driver of car number 71, David Murcott, now putting a lap on these tail end cars, and Murcott doing it beautifully out in front coming off turn number 4.
Yeah, he's going to win this easily. Last lap on display now. White flag shown, and Murcott has got the car dialed in superbly. He's having a ball in this opening heat, really enjoying his work behind the wheel of car number 71. And here's the checkered flag flying in the first heat in this 10th and final round of the Autopro Series. Here's the second place driver, Ian Lewis, now arriving what seemed to be half an hour after our victor took the checkered flag. Murcott, Lewis, Vogels.
A good win to David Murcott that time, and certainly that sets the scene for the rest of the night's program.
Yeah, good win by David Murcott. He'd be extremely happy with himself, and he's with Stewart.
David, you were due to start out of position 4. Young Charles Hunter didn't make the heat, meant to start off the front row, just blasted away.
Yeah, it made it a lot easier to start from the front row. You don't have to pass any cars, you get a good start, and lucky enough for us, it made us have a good heat, and we got the points on the board, and all we've got to do now is get a good finish in this one, and we should be pretty right.
Track conditions?
It's a little bit different. There's wet places and there's dry places, and I think the track's taken a while to settle down, but I think it's making it a little bit hard to pass, but it should come right for the feature.
Yes, he looked very sharp in the opening heat tonight. Let's check the starting grid for you now in Heat 2 for Maxim Printing. Garry Chippendall, David Swayn, Tony Moole, David Argus, Damien Abbott, John Shaw out of the Central Coast in New South Wales, Troy Little from Sydney, Carl Trofa. Then we go down to Steve Lynch and Max Dumesny. Here's David Swayn.
David Swayn, the man sitting third in the points. David, we're here at Wagga. How did you feel after hot laps?
Yeah, the car seemed to be pretty good. Put a different set of gears in it, so we'll go out and see if we can be a bit quicker this time.
Now, you've got two 16-year-olds on your crew. They've crewed for you for the whole season. That must be fantastic to have two young kids willing enough to come away and come this far, actually, to crew for you all season.
Yeah, they come out every weekend with us, and they're just hooked now, so every weekend where we're going, and they do their little bit and helps get to the next race.
Now, the Hungry Hound pet treats. Tell us all about that. That's it's something completely different. I found out about it only today. Just let everybody know what that is.
Our business is cooking treats for dogs, virtually like a snack or a reward, and that's it.
And they are actually pig's ears. That is correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
There you have it. That David Swayn cooks pig's ears for a job. We wish you all the best in the final round here. Sitting third in the points. Let's hope you can move up 2 positions or at 1 position and take third in the championship.
That'd be nice, Stewie.
Isn't it great when you can get your entire family involved, and that's what this sport is all about. Heat number 2 for Maxim Printing, Greatfield, Chippendall and David Swayn. The man we just heard from, that interview recorded earlier tonight with Stuart McCarthy in the pits, underway, and best to begin Garry Chippendall.
Leading down the back straightaway on the first occasion, David, and Max Dumesny, former 2 times national sprint car champion in this one, coming through from the extreme back mark. So we'll watch with great interest the progress of Max Dumesny through the field in this one.
Great to see the New South Wales-based drivers joining the Auto Pro Series tonight. There's John Shaw, he's one of them in the Caltex Haviline entry. Obviously, those of our viewers that watched our live coverage of World Series sprint cars last summer and the Goff and Gilmore Cat 50,000, well aware of the credentials of guys like John Shaw, Troy Little involved in this race, and also the great Max Dumesny, as Dennis has said, former dual national champion, triple winner of World Series sprint cars, and had a magnificent season. Behind Robbie Farr, you'd have to say, Dennis, Dumesny the second most successful sprint car driver this season.
Without doubt, David, something like 13 main event wins during the course of the season. On points aggregate or percentage aggregate, I should say. I guess Robert Farr was just marginally better on a percentage basis, but there was only a struck match between Robert Farr and Max Dumesny throughout the summer sprint car racing season.
All right, Chippendall continues to lead this one. Here they come down the main straight. This huge Wagga International Raceway. That's first and second you're watching now. Chippendall on the left-hand side of your screen. David Swayn in the Hungry Hound Pet Treats JSR runs in second off turn number 4. They're long straightaways here. Big speed, no place for the faint-hearted.
That's right, David. Of course, gear ratios and tyre combinations and suspension setups. That's the key to being competitive on this track. And I guess it's fair to say that some of the Victorian drivers are not used to running on a circuit of this size, and the guys that can dial in will be the best. But Max Dumesny, look at Max Dumesny, right into contention now, up into third spot on the racetrack.
Yes, he just took Tony Moole on the main straight last time they came by our commentary position on the main straight of this venue. Dumesny got up on the inside of Moole, so he's third. and now has his sights set on David Swayn. In fact, we got a quick look at it then. We've got orange caution lights on because John Shaw in the Caltex Haviland entry has come to rest precariously midway between turns 3 and 4. So we bring them for a race restart, Indian file formation. They'll go back and start this race based on how they were running on the track 1 lap prior to the stoppage. And that's why Dumesny has been shuffled back to 4th.
So we'll see if Max Dumesny can increase his position in the field as he goes up onto that high line. In actual fact, just loses a little bit of ground to the top 3 runners. Still Garry Chippendall leading and leading well.
Pretty good race this, made that much more interesting by the stoppage. Look at the horsepower. They turn it on coming out of turn 4. Chippendall the leader. Then it's Swayn, Moole. Look at Dumesny, up and over, almost no. Moole, well, he knows he's been in a motor race, doesn't he?
Oh,
a panel beater's delight.
Absolutely, David. Well, they were running so hard, so fast into turn number 1. Just taking a look at it now on the replay. And as you can see, the driver of car number just getting a little out of shape. Dumesny nowhere to go, right up and over the side.
Tony Moole it was in 53, and he was collected by Damien Abbott.
And the rest of the field coming through there, also involved in car number 30 was Damien Abbott, as you called it. But taking another look at the angle, and as you can see, really Max Dumesny, he's continued on his way. And Dave Argus also involved there too, but not too much damage. And I guess we'll see all those cars back on the racetrack. Max is okay. He's ready to go once again in car number 5.
I thought that Moole in 53 or Dumesny in Valvoline car 5 were both heading for barrel rolls, but fortuitously for them, that was not the case. So back underway, and we're in for a fascinating couple of laps here. Chippendall the leader, Swayn in second. He got a bit of a touch-up on the inside too there by Max Dumesny as they ran through turns 1 and 2 the first time. Here's your first 3 blasting up the main straight in excess of 150 kilometres an hour. They run wide open at the Wagga International Raceway.
Garry Chippendall now half a lap away from the checkered flag down into the bottom turn for the final time. This has been a great race as Chippendall comes off turn number 4 to take the checkered flag, and a good win in heat number 2. Garry Chippendall first, David Swayn in second spot. Third man across the line driving car 5 was Max Dumesny.
Our heat 2 winner, Garry Chippendall. Chipper, you've been here before. Much different?
No, not a great deal of difference. The competition's a lot stiffer tonight, actually. You know, we've got a Australian champion amongst us. A lot of Victorian, or a lot of state champions. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure here tonight, a lot of good drivers.
It's fantastic to see the guys who travelled up here to New South Wales to really support this Victorian series, and it's been fantastic so far this year for this series.
It has had tremendous support, actually. There's 31 cars here tonight, I think. You know, we've had 30, 40 cars nearly every night. It's been fantastic, the support. And I suppose the sponsors, I hope the sponsors are really getting their TV's worth, you know. I know my sponsors really appreciate it, Hussey Performance, Penrite Motor Oils, and, you know, the crowds, our Autopro sponsors. I can't think of all our contingency sponsors, but I hope they're getting their money's worth, and I hope the crowd are enjoying it, because there has been some fantastic racing.
Well, thanks a lot, Chipper, and we wish you all the best for the rest of the night. We cross back up to David for heat 3.
That's all right. I can keep going for another half hour if you wish.
Haha, there he is, Garry Chippendall. I wish he'd become a little more extroverted. He's a little quiet on it.
Yeah, he's got to get more illuminated, I think, David. Yes, here's the field now for heat number 3. There it is. David Hall, Mark Blyton, David Anderson, Jeremy Warren, Rod Matthews, Peter Knight, Mike Van Bremen, Paul Bastow, David Van Bremen, Grant Tunks and Marcus Nelson, the field for heat number 3.
So we have another few New South Wales drivers involved in this. David Hall out of Queanbeyan, Mark Blyton, and of course Grant Tunks, son of the former national champion Bobby Tunks, who's an avid viewer of Checkered Flag on C7 Sport. This event brought to you by MD Motorsport, heat number 3, and we're underway.
Down the back straightaway, Mike Van Bremen quickly into stride. There's the rest of the field. Grant Tunks also moving up through from the back of the field.
If I'm not mistaken, that's Bob Tunks' old car from last season or the season before even.
Yes, I think you're right there, David. That's correct. As we watch David Anderson down the back straightaway, driving car number 37, David Anderson, the Wagga Mobile Cranes entry.
Up on the inside there of David Hall. David Hall, a relative newcomer to sprint car racing. And that's him running behind Mark Blyton. So Blyton is the leader. Hall is second. David Anderson is third. David Hall broke his arm in an industrial accident at the start of the season and didn't do a whole lot of racing.
That's right, David. You're correct there. But it's good to see him back, and he's really putting on quite a display in this heat. Mark Blyton, however, doing really well up at the top of the field.
David Anderson has moved up to second now, relegating David Hall. Gee, the racetrack's very slick. You can actually hear in the background, I'm sure, the tyres squealing. Just hear it when we go through the bends. These machines are really doing it tough in terms of traction. Listen to that. You can hear them all squealing their heads off. And that's an ominous sign for later on tonight. It'll become a case of tyre war. Or tyre wear. It'll be a tyre war to determine tyre wear. That's easy for me to say.
I guess it'll be a war between the tyre brands. But Mike Blyton, but look at David Anderson here. He's really applying the pressure now to Mark Blyton, but Blyton goes a little high that time. Here comes Anderson, but Blyton shuts the gate. A great race this time down into turn number 3.
David Anderson always supporting the Wagga International Raceway. Why wouldn't he? Principal sponsor. Wagga Mobile Cranes have been with Anderson for a long time. The first time I came to this racetrack, I recall vividly, was in the early 90s, just after this venue opened. It was for the New South Wales Super Sedan Championship, and I'm sure John Leslie won it that particular year. David Hall in 68 has had a moment, spinning off the track and has parked precariously. That brings on the amber caution light, so we'll see a race restart here in MD Motorsport, heat number 3.
Yes, that's right, David. Yeah, I think you are right too. The New South Wales Super Sedan Championship, as we see 3 laps to go in heat number 3. The field underway, and Mark Blyton picks up the pace once again, but David Anderson still coming on strongly.
Yes, that particular event I was talking about, the New South Wales Super Sedan Championship in the early 90s, it was one of the first events we were able to put on TV of V8 Super Sedan racing.
Yes, and of course this track, as we say, because of its size, it's a spectacular racetrack. Sedans, super sedans, midget, sprint cars, they all look good around this venue.
So Blyton, with a couple of laps to run, knows he's in a motor race. David Anderson in the Wagga Mobile Cranes entry is annoying daylights out of him. Last lap now, they shoot down the back straight. Anderson will... Oh, there was a slower car there that got in the way. They did extremely well to miss him. Paul Bastow in car 90. If this wasn't the last lap, that would have brought on the orange lights. It's been declared anyway. Checkered flag flying. It'll be Blyton, Anderson and Jeremy Warren getting up to third on the circuit. We were so engrossed there with the battle between Blyton and Anderson. Didn't really see Warren sneaking onto the podium in that race. Here is Stuart McCarthy in the pits.
Thanks, David. We're now here with our Heat 3 winner, the first New South Wales driver to win a heat for this series this year, Mark Blyton. How did it feel?
Yeah, it feels pretty good to win a heat when we're running a Victorian series. It looks like a pretty competitive series, and we're wondering how they're all going, and they sort of showed their colours, and they're pretty strong.
How did the car feel?
Yeah, car felt pretty good. It's a little bit loose. I've seen David Anderson stick his nose up there a few times. I think he had his car a little better. But, yeah, I think we're pretty close to the money.
You've got to make the car twice as wide when you've got a man like David Anderson right on your ginger.
Oh, he's a pretty hungry man for a win, so every time you can hold him out or just straight out boot him, you're doing pretty well.
We wish you all the best for the rest of the night, and welcome to the Victorian Sprint Car Racing here in New South Wales.
Pleasure to be here.
Hi, I'm Mike Van Bremen. You're watching Checkered Flag on C7.
Checkered Flag, we're coming to you from the Wagga International Raceway. Beautiful part of New South Wales. Balmy evening. This is the grand final of the very successful Autopro Super Sprint Series in front of a very good crowd. Now, time for the starting grid. Max Dumesny starts on pole. Darren Saillard, Trofa, Pitcher, Shaw, Smith, Argus, Vogels, Swayn, and the West Aussie driver, Jeremy Warren, whips in this 10-car field. Well, Dumesny started at the back of the pack in his opening drive tonight. He got up to third on that occasion. He should relish the opportunity of a front row start. He'll be very hard to beat. Good start, though, having said all that, by Darren Saillard. Track is fairly slick, Dennis Newland. Oh, there's a problem. Car getting right out of shape. But he's now back underway. Carl Trofa it was in car 4.
Well, while all this is happening, there you see them down the back straightaway. Max Dumesny still holding second spot. The man in the race lead is the driver of car number 26, Dave Argus, down the main straightaway once again. And in fact, opened a gap on Max Dumesny down into turn number 1. There's Dumesny holding down second spot.
Just like to clarify, I think I said Cole Trofa before. It was Graeme Pitcher that clouted the concrete wall in the back straight in car 84. There's a great sight in sprint car racing, the Valvoline Maxim of Max Dumesny. Now we're looking at the Regimade Cranes entry of Darren Saillard. The Regimade Cranes company is actually owned and operated by David Hall, who we saw in the last race. He's throwing a bit of sponsorship support the way of his fellow ACT resident, Darren Saillard, and it's working just nicely for him here.
Oh, David, the track in turn number 1 there just starting to break up a little bit. You might have noticed there that Hall did hit a rut there. Oh, sorry, Darren Saillard hit a rut there going through turn number 1. Very slick on that pole line now. And Max Dumesny now closing that gap dramatically down the back straightaway. Although Saillard skipping clear once again. Problems up into turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, 2 cars involved here. One of them is David Swayn on the right-hand side of your screen. And we get them back underway with 6 laps remaining in heat number 4. Can Saillard repel the challenge of the champion Max Dumesny? Just saw Vogels going via the infield. There he is in the yellow car. I'll tell you something, this track is proving a handful for these guys tonight. Very few of them look entirely comfortable out there.
Yeah, David, as I said, certainly one of the bigger tracks, if not the biggest track on the Autopro Super Sprint Series trial this season. And as you say, some of them are having difficulty coming to grips with it. But for a professional like Max Dumesny, there he is, a great shot there of Max Dumesny working in the office of the number 5 Valvoline car.
Gee whiz, get into focus. We say to our camera operator, here's our leader, Darren Saillard. Dumesny in hot pursuit. That's a wonderful tight shot at the end of the main straight. Dumesny unable to make up for much ground here on Darren Saillard, which goes to show you how slick the track has become. It's not really a horsepower track. I know that seems a little silly in view of the space available at the Wagga International Raceway, but Saillard generally doesn't have a motor program even comparable to Max Dumesny, but able to match it with him. In fact, more than match it with him here tonight so far. Last corner, great drive by the New South Welshman Saillard with 1 lap remaining. Should get home.
I would say so, David. Max issuing one last challenge down the back straight into turn number 3 for the final time. A lap car in the way there, but Darren Saillard off turn 4. Not much in it, but will last long enough to take a great win, in fact, over Max Dumesny. Plenty of pressure for Saillard, but he held on for the win. Max Dumesny second, and from New South Wales, driving car number 6, John Shaw coming in third.
Yeah, good drive by Shaw. He was a long way back, but then again, he started out of position number 5. Now we advance to heat number 5 of the Autopro Super Sprint Series Grand Final night. Jeff Judd on pole, David Van Bremen, Matthew Reid, Mike Van Bremen, Lewis Matthews, Murcott, Anderson, Hunter Hall, and Marcus Nelson in car number 23 will start at the back of the pack. Another snarling pack of sprint cars underway, another 10-lap journey.
Yeah, down the back straight of the field, sorting themselves out. Van Bremen and Anderson having a coming together there. Down into turn number 3. The yellow light's on. Officials not happy with the start that time, so we'll do it all again.
A little bit of confusion here as to whether there was going to be a restart. They now come back. Jeff Judd in the Autopro entry. Starts on pole. Car number 11. David Van Bremen on the outside of him. Away they go. Can they all get through the first couple of corners safely? No, they can't. We've got a spin up. Did well to keep the engine fired up though, Dave Hall, and looking desperately to rejoin the race.
But while that's happening, Jeff Judd, one going up high there down the main straight, but Jeff Judd leading. Here comes Van Bremen in there too in the I&V truck repairs entry. And also in this one too is Ian Lewis. David Murcott right around the outside there of Mike Van Bremen. A good race this one. Lewis there on camera, the closest to camera as they go into turn number 1 once again. And of course the highlight of this Autopro Super Sprint Series, there's no doubt about it, the car counts have been absolutely fabulous. This series during the course of the summer racing season has taken in 3 states not only the home base of Victoria, but into South Australia and, of course, across into New South Wales with the grand final here at the Wagga International Raceway. One of the real success stories of Australian Speedway during the 2000, 2001, 2002 summer racing season.
No doubt. I'd like to pay tribute along those lines to Ian Vale, who's been the brains behind the Autopro series this summer. Excellent job, Ian, and all of his helpers with the Sprintcar Racing Association of Victoria, to all the sponsors, and to our little mate Stuart McCarthy, who's done such a great job in the pits, and also Colin Farr, who's been a part of our commentary team right throughout the duration of this Autopro series. And I can tell you that we will be doing the tournament in its entirety again on C7 next summer.
Well, when I said 2002, David, that's exactly right. The series, the good news for sprint car fans in the southern states of Australia, 2002, the series will once again be heading your way, and that is great news for sprint car fans. A great tight action shot there, close up of Jeff Judd down the back straightaway here, and not too many more laps remaining in this heat, but Jeff Judd doing it nicely out in front.
Matthew Reid runs second. Despite the enormity of this racetrack, we've seen some pretty good racing, particularly in view of the difficult track conditions. There's Murcott having a spin. He was an emphatic victor tonight in the opening heat. He rejoins this race with not far to go in about 5th or 6th place. Last lap now for our leader, Jeff Judd, who's been handily placed in the championship point score for, well, several months since this tournament got underway at Nyora in Victoria. Look at his brake disc glowing bright orange too across the line. That was pretty close in the end, wasn't it? Matthew Reid in close proximity, and there's Reid now celebrating with a big screechy across the infield. It was Judd, Reid and Ian Lewis. Another look at the aggro at the start of that race.
Oh, it certainly was. You can see Ian Lewis there, but Judd and one going around sideways. I think it was David Hall, but continuing on in the race. Certainly plenty of action in that one. Turning our attention now to heat number 6 on tonight's program, brought to you by Valvoline, the sponsors of heat number 6. There's the field: Grant Tunks, Steve Lynch, Paul Bastow, Troy Little, Peter Knight, Damien Abbott, Jeremy Warren from Victoria, Tony Mule, Mark Blyton and Garry Chippendall. Jeremy Warren from Western Australia, pardon me, as the field's set to go once again.
Should be a good one. Grant Tunks, he goes pretty good. He's an underrated driver. He drifted up track and cut off any challenges there. So Grant Tunks leads them as they settle down by about 10 metres. Looking for the driver in second, it's Tunks' fellow Sydney-sider Troy Little, who hasn't done too bad a job. He's ran a couple of rounds of this series, in fact. Ventured down to Avalon International Raceway, and if memory serves me correctly, had a huge crash. Yeah, so he's done well to repair and get back on the track. That's right, as the field sorts themselves out down into turn number 3. But, of course, while all that is happening, the man that is out in front and doing a good job is Grant Tunks. There's car number 53, Tony Mule there going through. And also up onto the high line as the rest of the field. Car number 90 is Paul Bastow. Oh, and Warren in all sorts of bother there. Ran into the back of Paul Bastow, bringing on the caution lights. We'll take a look at this as they come down the back straightaway. Should get a replay of this incident coming up. Yes, here it is. As you can see there, Warren looking for that run on the inside. Bastow just coming down on him, in fact. Tell you something, Dennis. Warren would be pretty unhappy about that. I mean, there was plenty of room. He was just hugging the inside of the track, and Bastow just fair dinkum turned left on him. Absolutely, absolutely. Grant Tunks to lead them away once again. Down into turn number 1. Grant Tunks clear of the opposition on the back straightaway for the continuation of heat number 6, sponsored by Valvoline Oils. There's car number 90, Paul Bastow at the tail of the field. If you may have just joined us on Checkered Flag this week, we come to you from the Wagga International Raceway. First time our cameras have been trackside here for a number of years. In fact, 1998 the last time we were here with a round of the International Speedway Masters Series for Speedway bikes. January 98. And this is the grand final, the 10th and final round of the Autopro Super Sprint Series, arguably the strongest domestic tournament in Australian sprint car racing. Well, there's Troy Little looking good there in second spot. Of course, Troy Little out of the leader category.
and making a good job of sprint car competition there. Oh, through on the inside in car number 53, Tony Mule there, taking over now second spot in the race as one driver, car number 82, Mark Blyton, who looked good earlier in the night, in fact took out a heat race victory, bringing on the caution lights. 5 laps remaining for the restart. Grant Tunks leading them away. Tyres starting to squeal again here, which reflects the difficult nature of the racetrack. It's very slick, as hard as concrete underneath. A little bit of traction up top, but it's not very moist, so it's quite skatey up on the circuit. Not that many drivers are choosing to plant their right rear wheel on what we call the cushion in oval track racing. They prefer to hug the low line. And of course what happens when the track is like this, the cars tend to lay down plenty of black rubber, which makes it even slicker, but that's where the grip is. It becomes the quickest way around, even though it doesn't look that spectacular. Yeah, that's right, David, with the yellow caution lights on once again. The driver of car number 30, Damien Abbott, bringing on the caution lights once again. Grant Tunks still the race leader and 4 laps remaining. Down into turn number 1 and Grant Tunks away. Of course, with tracks like this going slick and hard, the wide open spaces of a venue such as the Wagga International Raceway, very similar, I guess, to a number of American tracks that are noted for their way they go slick and hard in the latter part of the evening's program. And Wagga, the pole line, certainly becoming very slick. Yeah, but it's still probably the fastest way around, as I explained before. Let's just watch the cars as they negotiate this circuit. This is the final qualifying heat. The A-main scramble comes up next, and that will determine the top 6 starting positions in the A-main. I can tell you, providing this race stays as it is, Chippendall, Dumesny, Murcott, Anderson, Reid and Lewis will be the starters in the A scramble, and effectively they will become the first 6 on the starting grid in the A main. Quite a scrap going on there between Troy Little and Tony Mule, but Grant Tunks will get the money. An easy win, a comfortable victory there for second generation driver Grant Tunks taking the win. Driver of car number 20, Troy Little, coming home in second spot. Third man across the line in car number 53 was Tony Mule. But Grant Tunks looking the goods in that one, virtually led from the outset. Now we turn our attention to the A Scramble over a race distance of 6 laps. The A Main Scramble, sponsored by Autopro. There's the field: Garry Chippendall, Max Dumesny, David Murcott, David Anderson, Matthew Reid and Ian Lewis. Set for a start. 6-lap screamer. Who will it be as they charge through turns 1 and 2? Chippendall led for a moment, but Max Dumesny raced by on the outside very quickly. You would expect the driver the calibre of Max Dumesny to have his car well and truly sorted out to track conditions. And let's have a look at him now. Yeah, leading by about 20 metres already. They won't catch him, Dennis. No way in the world. That's right. No way at all. Max Dumesny, such an experienced racer, and particularly on tracks like this one, really using all his American experience to advantage here as he streaks away from the opposition in tonight's A-main scramble. We watch now the battle for second and third between Chippendall and Murcott. There's Matthew Reid in car number 49. Not far to go in this one now. Interesting you mentioned Dumesny's extensive American experience. He did toy with the idea of going back there for a full campaign this year, but it's not to eventuate. I don't think he really wanted to. I think his wife Melinda was very keen on it. That's what Max told me anyway. But he runs a huge business now, MD Motorsports, and struggles to get the time to go abroad racing now. Well, that's right. Business commitments being what they are for Max Dumesny and his race operation, MD Motorsports. He really could not afford the time away from the office, not the racetrack office, the business office. And a very, very successful business, MD Motorsports, for Max Dumesny as the race leader. There he is. He's absolutely disappeared into the night. He's got this race absolutely carved up the opposition, shot to pieces to take the checkered flag. Max Dumesny, the winner of the A-main scramble. Gee, look how far he won by. The Valvoline Maximum. Maxim absolutely dominant on that occasion. David Murcott and Matthew Reid. A lot of M's in that race. The Maxim, Murcott, they're all happening, and Matthew Reid. Another look at the start of the race, and this is where it was won. The inside man on pole, Chippendall, got away okay, but Dumesny swept by on the outside. And have a look at them, out of control. About 3 of them scaring the daylights out of each other.
We've got a break coming up now. Stay with us. We come back with the main event action in just a moment. Checkered flag. We're coming to you from the Wagga International Raceway, southwestern New South Wales, and this is the grand final of the Autopro Super Sprint Series. Now the B main. There's the starting grid for you. Van Bremen, Knight, Moole, Lynch, Matthews, Shaw, Warren, Argus, Abbott, Van Bremen, Hough, Hall, Pitcher, Nelson. Now, current series leader Mike Van Bremen has to do it the tough way tonight, qualifying through the B main. He's now at Stuart McCarthy.
Now, you've got about a 260-odd point lead on Jeffrey Judd out of Camperdown. It's the final round. What do you do to really try and win this series this year? For tonight, more interesting.
Yeah, well, really all we have to do is just keep it pretty clean, I guess. But I want to go out there and perform the best I can. If we can come away with a win or a podium finish, I'll be wrapped. So
that still means you're going out there to win tonight's feature race?
Yeah, it's the safest way to do it. Go out there and try and do your best. If you just, try and finish, it's likely something will go wrong.
We wish you all the best for tonight's final round.
Thanks very much.
That discussion taking place prior to tonight's opening qualifying heat. So that's Van Bremen on the right-hand side of screen. The red and yellow car starting up front on pole in this event. Oh, have a look at that, will you? An absolute screamer. Car 30 up and over. Big time, Damien Abbott.
Well, David, that's what happens when you get a fast track like Wagga International Raceway, and we hope the driver's okay there. It was a very spectacular crash coming into the start. We'll take another look at it on the replay here. In the middle of the field, just keep your eye on the middle of the field. They just get a little out of shape there, and away he goes up and over, and man, oh man, right into the night sky here in Wagga, and comes down with an almighty thump. Spectacular crash at the start of tonight's B main event.
Another look from a different angle. Leaders go by, our camera up high on the straight. Look at that. That's very nasty. And look at the wheel flying off the car. That is a huge wreck. And let me tell you something. Abbott will know he's been in an accident. He will be very sore. That car is totaled, one would think.
Absolutely, David. Well, the good news is that Damien Abbott is quite okay. And doesn't that speak volumes for the high standard of sprint car regulations in Australia by the Sprint Car Control Council of Australia? Full marks to those people. That man, Damien Abbott, walked away from that horrific accident.
That's as big a crash as we've seen in sprint car racing all year. And that includes Stephen Bell in the Goff and Gilmore Cat 50,000, which was an absolute shocker at Parramatta Raceway. It all happened because of the coming together with Rod Matthews. Anyway, we'll concentrate on this event as it runs now. In fact, as it doesn't run, the amber caution light's on. A car sideways. I think it's car number 84, Graeme Pitcher, who clouded the concrete wall earlier tonight.
Yes, it was, David. Yes, as the field sets off once again on an eventful B main down the back straightaway on the first occasion. The tail end cars getting themselves sorted out as we cut back towards the front of the field down the main straightaway once again. And Mike Van Bremen, of course, the points leader in the series. There's car number 53 going through. Tony Mule, the driver. On the back straightaway, John Shaw in the Haviline entry down into the bottom turn once again.
Peter Knight, race lead up front now. The first four from this event transferring to the back of the A main, which comes your way next on the program. Max Dumesny has already qualified on pole position by virtue of his win in the A Scramble. In case you may have just joined our telecast, the A main still to come on the program. The B main being led currently by Peter Knight. The I&V Truck Repairs Speedway Fiberglass entry of Mike Van Bremen runs second.
And Van Bremen just closing that gap, if anything, down the main straightaway. But certainly Peter Knight looking really good out in front as he goes down the back section of the course once again. There's the battle further back in the field between John Shaw and the driver of car number 53, Tony Mule. They've been having quite a scrap since the onset, the start of the B main on tonight's program.
Got to give John Shaw some credit, Dennis. That man on screen in the Caltex Haviline, car number 6. He travels more territory than Burke and Wills year in, year out. He attends race meetings all over the place. Has even been to the Northern Territory on several occasions for the NT Sprint Car Trial.
Yeah, that's right, David. Very professional outfit. Running under sponsorship from Haviline is John Shaw, as there he is on screen once again, still involved in this battle with Tony Mule down the main straightaway once again. as John Shaw and Tony Mule go at it. And there's the top two runners down the main straight, back straight I should say, Peter Knight and Mike Van Bremen in the I&V truck repairs entry, the Ian Lowe I&V truck repairs car.
On next week's program, we've got the grand final of the Titan Queensland Sprintcar Summer Shootout Series for you. And the following week, the first of our two-part coverage of the Australian V8 Super Sedan Championship from the Rockhampton Showground Speedway. So that's a fortnight from today, the first hour in the National V8 Super Sedan Championship. We're showing that to you over, well, 2 weeks, 2 1-hour specials, and the racing will be fabulous. And plenty of drama in that national title, so don't miss our coverage. Lots of controversy as well.
As on the infield there, car number 52 from Western Australia, Jeremy Warren. Race continuing on, not too many more laps remaining. There's Van Bremen down into, Mike Van Bremen down into the bottom turn once again. And lap cars now coming into play in tonight's B main event as they head down the back section of the course once again.
Yeah, Van Bremen about to lap Van Bremen. And that occurred just as Mike Van Bremen got to the race lead. So that stoppage he needed like a hole in the head. That puts Peter Knight back up front for this race restart with not many laps remaining. Not really a problem for Van Bremen though. He needs to just keep his cool and he'll transfer into the back of the main event coming your way next on the show.
Dave, I think Mike Van Bremen is driving pretty conservatively tonight. He has a big points lead going into this grand final. Virtually has the series within his keeping. He doesn't have to do anything silly. And he's obviously taking a pretty conservative approach to tonight's racing.
Indeed, I think you're spot on. So Peter Knight not far remaining in this B main for Victory Lane race gear. There's the second place driver in this race and the leader of the championship, as Dennis Newland correctly pointed out. Then a break back to third. John Shaw is the driver in question. Last racing lap of this huge 600+ metre Wagga International Raceway. Track extremely slick. Car number 14, Peter Knight, is going to prove too good for them here. And as a result of that win, will start in position 15 in tonight's main event. Mike Van Bremen home in second, John Shaw third, Stephen Lynch was fourth. So Knight, Van Bremen and Shaw all go through to the B main. Here's Damien Abbott with Stuart McCarthy talking about that horror crash.
We're now here with Damien Abbott. Damien, you're in the B main, starting middle of the pack. The green flag got dropped. All of a sudden, everything's gone wrong. We have a look at the Avenger chassis behind you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm feeling all right now. We had a bit of an unlucky start. Everyone gets a bit anxious off the start, and we just ended up copping the worst part of it.
Just having a look at the damage of the car, she's pretty well much a write-off. Will you get back racing at the end of this season or not?
Towards the end of the season, I'd say. We definitely start with a new chassis, but a long few nights, I'd say.
The body, how did that fill up? Because like an Avenger chassis, all these chassis do a fantastic job to support you. How's the body?
Yeah, well, I walked away and looking at the car, you wouldn't think so. The chassis are rated really strong. It's all chrome moly tube, so that's what they're made for, but they don't last.
We thank you for coming down to Wagga and racing in the Autopro Super Sprint Series. We hope to see you back next year, and hopefully she doesn't end up like this.
Yeah, we'd give Wagga another go, even though it wasn't lucky this time around. Anyway, thank you.
All right, it's main event time. The last race in the Autopro Super Sprint Series for 2000-2001 in a fabulous 10-round championship. Max Dumesny on pole, Murcott outside front row, Matthew Reid, Garry Chippendall. Then it's Anderson, Lewis, Tunks, Judd, Vogels, Blyton, Little, Swayn, Saillard, Trofa, Knight, Van Bremen, John Shaw and David Hall getting a start in this 18-car field. Max Dumesny in the Valvoline Maxim has got to be a red-hot favourite as we get them underway. He got the best start to the former Warrnambool-based driver who these days resides at Nelson in Sydney's northwest. Has had quite a season, as we pointed out at the start of our telecast, and he's racing away into the distance. There's a problem further back in the pack. Up and over they go. That is, I think, Dave Hall, is it? In the Regimade.
Looks like
no,
it.
it's Saillard, in fact. Darren Saillard in car 9.
Yes, and as you can see there, John Shaw is also involved in the crash as the restart, a complete restart once again. And, of course, as expected, Max Dumesny leads them down into the first turn, down the back straightaway on the first occasion. and he will be certainly hard to run down from here, Max Dumesny.
David Murcott has moved into second place, or rather been relegated into second, as Dumesny attempts to drive away into the distance. There's Ian the Fly Lewis. He's handily placed at this stage of proceedings. David Anderson in the Wagga Mobile Cranes entry is not too far away either. But here's Dumesny leading David Murcott back onto the main straight. That is David Anderson running third on the circuit. So we've got some big name sprint car drivers running first, second and third at this stage.
Certainly have, David, but all eyes on this man, Max Dumesny, and even at this very, very early stage of the race, has an advantage, though still Murcott still certainly within range and still certainly a lot of laps to go, but the track conditions being what they are, Max would have set this car up to run the full distance, certainly probably faster in the latter half of the race. And as you can see, he's doing it just easily out in front there. Has this race really under control even at this early stage.
He's cruising. He's got the car set up beautifully. He runs the black, sticky part of the racetrack down low. The Valvoline car. If you want to see how well his car's set up, next time we get the opportunity, just check the complete lack of arm movement on the steering wheel. He's fairly like he's strapped into an armchair with the VCR remote control in one hand, the cup of coffee in the other. He's doing nothing. The car's just running around like it's on rails. Just watch this. Hardly moving the arms. Look at that. Just really nursing it through the turns.
And as you say, David, just doing it so easily. Lap cars, I guess, playing their part in this race, even in these early laps. And coming up to put a lap now on point leader, Mike Van Bremen. This, in actual fact, just Murcott closing a little bit. Dumesny having a few problems with Van Bremen there too, down into turn number 3, but now gets him safely on the inside.
Max is not noted for his patience. He just whipped up the inside and thought, I want to get out of here. Now Murcott in car 71, forced to do likewise. If anything, the slower traffic has done Murcott no harm. It did slow Dumesny momentarily, which got Murcott back onto equal terms with him. But did you see that? He went by Swayn really quickly on the outside. Well, there's our points leader, Mike Van Bremen in car number 6, having problems. The fact that he's qualified for the main tonight, you would think, from a points point of view, would give him an unassailable break in this championship anyway. Well, he just needs to finish.
Yeah, he just only needs to finish. That's correct, and he's just taking it carefully there. He's just out for the run tonight, Mike Van Bremen. There's no doubt about that in tonight's main event. But here's Max Dumesny down the main straightaway. We were alluding earlier, of course, to Max's. There's David Anderson in car number 37, midway through the field at this stage, about Max Dumesny's American experience and going right back to the mid-80s when he had such a successful run in the US.
Just want to make a point too for anyone that's just joined our telecast. If Max Dumesny wins this race, which he looks as though he will, it'll have absolutely no bearing at all on the championship. He's not raced in any other round because he's been doing other things and joined the fray tonight, and will be quite happy to win this, take the prize money, but it'll have no bearing on what transpires in the point score. Oh, Lewis almost coming together with Grant Tunks.
Yes, David, but Max Dumesny still well clear of the opposition. And Ian Lewis getting a little bit out of shape, in fact, down the main straightaway here into turn number 1. That's Ian Lewis in the number 18 car there on screen. As we cut down to the bottom of the circuit, coming onto the main straightaway once again to complete another lap into tonight's main event. There's David Murcott.
Dennis, just before we talk about some American sprint car news, which you've got as we watch this race unfold, a reminder to everybody watching our program that C7 has secured the exclusive rights on a delayed basis for the Speedway World Cup. And you should check your local Optus and Ozstar magazines. First telecast 6 p.m. on July the 20th. There'll be 4 or 5, I think, from memory, 1-hour highlights packages delayed of the Speedway World Cup, and Australia doing battle with the likes of Sweden, Denmark, England, America, Slovenia, the Czech Republic, Russia, all Speedway nations involved in that. It'll be a great tournament, and you'll see it right here exclusively on your undisputed home of oval track racing.
That will be absolutely fabulous. Of course, that particular tournament is I guess you could say, the upmarket version of the World Team Cup that was held for many, many years. Started off in 1960 for bikes, and we're looking forward to that coverage on C7 Sport. There's Max Dumesny and now putting a lap on Jeff Judd down the back section of the course once again into turn number 3.
All right, Dennis, American Sprint Car news. Plenty to report whilst we watch Max in action.
Well, there is plenty to report this last week or so. Of course, as we know, a number of Australians competing in the US, and Peter Murphy, who really does confine his racing to California and the west coast of America, has been performing really well of late. Absolutely dominated the main event or the program at Chico, Silver Dollar Speedway in Chico, California a week or so back. And his consistent running through that series at Chico has him on top of the leaderboard. And that's good news for Peter Murphy, driving the 0 car for car owner Maury Williams. Meanwhile, in the Midwest at Knoxville in Iowa, Kerry Madsen is currently 6th in the Knoxville Track Championship point standings, and Skip Jackson running 7th in that particular competition. Oh, and David Murcott sending Garry Chippendall into a spin on the infield there. Chippendall keeps the motor running and attempts... No.
He's had enough now.
That's enough for the night for Garry Chippendall. Max Dumesny now coming up to lap some more cars. And talking of Knoxville, this past weekend, in fact, Brooke Tatnall back in competition again in American Sprint Car racing, ran the club program at the Knoxville Raceway, and in fact was 17th fastest from 36 cars in qualifying time trials, and finished a 5th in the night's B main event. And Brooke getting back into a competitive edge, shall we say, once again after a month or so out of racing after losing the drive in the Lonnie Parsons car on the World of Outlaws Trail.
And also Stephen Graeme finishing 2nd in the Sprint Car main event in South Carolina last weekend too. So we've brought you up to date with the latest and greatest from the American scene. Meanwhile, Max Dumesny is on the last lap in this, the grand finale in the final round of the Autopro Super Sprint Series. He comes up behind Mark Blyton, and the 3 times World Series Sprint Car champion takes victory in the final round of the Autopro tournament. Max Dumesny the winner, Murcott 2nd, David Anderson 3rd. I'm a little saddened by the fact that this is the final round of the Autopro Series. It's been fabulous, and we've loved bringing it to you on Checkered Flag right throughout the 2000-2001 season. Here's Stuart McCarthy with Max Dumesny.
The man home in first spot, a contingency sponsor for this series, Max Dumesny. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was great to be back here at Wagga and win the feature. I was quite happy. We've been looking forward to coming back to Wagga for about 4 years now, so it's great to come back here and have a win.
Great for the Hoosier tyre.
It is, and it didn't let me down this weekend.
All right, before we hear from our series champion, let's look at the top 10 at the completion of 10 rounds. Van Bremen, Jeff Judd, David Swayn, Ian Lewis, Rod Matthews, Jeremy Warren, John Vogels, Colin Bulmer, Ian Thomsen and Garry Chippendall.
We're down here with the 2000-2001 Autopro Super Sprint champion, Mike Van Bremen. Congratulations, Mike, on your series win. You nearly have to call it the consistency win this year.
Yeah, look, I'm really happy to win the championship. Tonight wasn't a good example of how consistent we've been. But, hey, look, you know, we had a good series. I was really rapt to win the series. Thanks to Autopro and all my sponsors, IMV Truck Repairs and Victory Lane Race Gear, Speedway Fiberglass, Fleet Guard. I mean, all the people that helped me. And a big special thanks to me crew. Without them, we would never have been this consistent.
The thing it comes back to, you won round 3 down at Mount Gambier.